Okay, so in ninth place is probably gonna shock everyone watching this video right now. And before you comment, just hear me out. But in ninth place, I have Brighton and Hove Albion. And you know, I get it. De Zerbi is an amazing coach. Honestly, probably top 5 in the world right now, just based on what he did. Because Brighton is just a team that everyone thought that they reached their peak with Potter, but you know, De Zerbi just took them to a whole new level. But I feel like losing McAllister and potentially losing Caicedo is just gonna really bring them down next season. And also the fact that they have to play in Europe. Having a team that is capable of playing in Europe is really difficult, and bringing in Mahmoud Dahoud and James Milner are just players that are not going to suitable for playing every game. They're probably going to play upwards, maybe upwards of 40 games next season if they make it far in the Europa League. So I feel like it's just really important, or Europa Conference League. I don't know which one they're in, but I'm just saying playing in Europe is really dangerous for teams. You know, everyone saw what happened when Burnley, they tried playing in the Europa League because, you know, they finished above expectations and they just really struggled in the regular season. And I feel like Brighton might not be like Burnley, have a short-lived stint in Europe. I feel like they actually might get to the pretty far with De Zerbi, because he's going to try to prioritize that competition. I feel like, unless they're in danger of being relegated, but I doubt that. I feel like they're just going to fall off in the league a little bit, especially because they have to play so many games and they've lost a lot of players. Yes, they brought in Joao Pedro. Yes, they brought in Igor. And yes, they've strengthened a lot, but I feel like it's just not enough for them to, you know, do what they did last season, especially losing McAllister and Caicedo, who were, you know, really crucial to how they played, especially in the midfield. You know, winning the ball back, as I said, you know, is really important. And I feel like they did that a lot for Brighton last season, and they just won't be able to replicate what they did in midfield, especially with James Milner and Dahoud, who are just either injury prone or really old. So I feel like they're going to struggle this season. Now in 8th, I have Spurs, and it might be shocking to you guys to have Spurs on top of Brighton, but honestly, I feel like Spurs, they might not do the worst. I feel like, yes, a lot of Spurs fans will probably think 8th is pretty bad, but considering the position that you guys are in at the moment, I feel like 8th is just honestly not the worst that you could do, especially with the whole Kane situation. I feel like it's been dragged out for way too long already. The season is 2 weeks away, and Spurs have no idea whether they're going to start with Kane or not next season. If they don't start with Kane next season, I feel like they're going to end up way lower than 8th, or maybe not way lower, probably 10th to 12th, just because I feel like they're going to have to search for a striker in the market. And in a market where everyone knows that you don't have a striker, it's really dangerous, because you're going to end up overpaying for a player that's not as good as Kane. Nowhere near as good. You're going to be end up paying probably what you got for Kane. You're probably going to get about 100 million euros for Kane, and you're probably going to end up spending that much on a player that's only worth about 40, because teams know that you're panicking. Teams know that you have the money and that you're in dire need of a striker, and you just don't want to be in a situation like that. They brought in Madison, which is really good, honestly, in my opinion, and they also brought Solomon, who was really good in terms of long shots. I'm not really sure what his creative numbers were, but he did get a good amount of long shots, and I feel like this is really important for teams like Spurs, because teams might park the bus against you, and you just need a player that's just gonna, you know, probably get a goal out of nowhere, and I feel like Solomon can do that. But I feel like depending on where Kane ends up, and I feel like whether he's at Spurs or not, could greatly affect this position. But I feel like 8th is the best they can hope for, especially if they do decide to keep Kane. I feel like this is still gonna be a morale dropper, just because I feel like everyone knows he wants to leave. He might not sign a new contract, and he's gonna be playing like a player that just doesn't want to be there, and that's kind of really bad for morale. But I feel like 8th, even with the new manager, I don't know how to pronounce his name, with the new manager, I feel like 8th is the best I could hope for. Okay, so at 7th, I have Aston Villa. I feel like this is a really good prediction. Honestly, this is probably one of the ones I'm more confident in, just because Unai Emery is a really good defensive coach. Yes, he didn't have the best time at Arsenal, but at Villarreal, I feel like he really flourished as a manager. He learned a lot defensive wise, and I feel like bringing in a player like Pau Torres, who, you know, took him to the semifinals of the Champions League, it's really important to have. You know, it really solidifies that defense, and everyone says he's gonna be competing with Tyrone Mings. Fuck Tyrone Mings, guys. Like, he's just fucking mid. He's mid as fuck. And having a player like Pau Torres, he is much better than Tyrone Mings. I'm sorry, he's gonna replace him. He's not there to compete. He's there to replace him. And having a player as electric as Moussa Diaby, creating chances for you, and also Tielemans, who's a really great passer. maybe not the most physical player in the world, but he's a really good passer. I feel like with the coach, like when I marry Emery, they have the tools to finish, you know, in the European spots. They can't hope for a upper mid table. I feel like European spots are, you know, with this crop of players, I feel like that's the most they should be challenging for with these players now. And in sixth, I have the biggest spenders in England. I have Chelsea. I feel like Chelsea, yes, they spent a shitload of money. Honestly, I feel like for the amount that they spent, competing for the title should be the minimum. I don't care what Chelsea fans say. Spending 600 million in like 2 windows is just ridiculous, and I feel like you should be buying players that are, you know, at least good enough to produce in the moment, not just in the future, which is like they're just choking money at the future and hoping that something sticks, especially with these crazy contracts. But I feel like six isn't bad for them. I feel like a lot of fans are gonna hope that top four is what they get, and honestly, I feel like it'll be a really tight challenge for top four. So I feel like sixth and fourth, they're probably not gonna have a huge point difference in my opinion. I feel like it's gonna be really close. But losing Mount, losing Kovacic, losing Havertz, although 2 out of the 3 weren't really that important last season, I really think that having a really weak midfield, it just was gonna damage them at the moment. I feel like they're still trying really hard to chase for Caicedo. According to Fabrizio, they're looking at other options now, and I feel like it's kind of late for that. You know, the season kicks off in 2 weeks. When you bring in a player, it's gonna take about a week or two to even get in, to get their medicals, you know, to get their work permits done. So I feel like they're gonna start with a really weak midfield, but I feel like players like Nkunku and Jackson and the Sassi, who they just signed because of that Wesley Fofana injury, I feel like it's really important to have these players. Honestly, from what I've seen on preseason, Nicholas Jackson, yes, I get preseason can mean a shitload of different things, but Nicholas Jackson looks like he's a really solid finisher. And they might get Vlahovic through the door just to get rid of Lukaku. I feel like that'll be a bad move in my opinion. I feel like sticking with Nicholas Jackson and Nkunku up top, you know, rotating, I feel like that's what's best for them in the future. I get Vlahovic isn't the oldest, but I feel like it'll be just really important for them to have Nicholas Jackson. I feel like, I don't know why, I just really just liked watching him play, especially with Mudryk. Maybe they had that a really good partnership, but you know, six is still maybe not the best for them. But I feel like with all the change, new manager, so many players in the squad, I feel like six is the best I can hope for. And in fifth, I have another big spending team. I have a team that's a little bit lower than what they finished last season. I have Newcastle United, and the main reason I have Newcastle United is because they signed Tonali. I get Tonali's an amazing player on the ball, but I feel like this new midfield partnership of Guimaraes and Tonali, and also losing St. Max. Yes, I get St. Max isn't the best. They've also replaced him with Harvey Barnes. You know, Alan St. Maximin is a creator. He's a flair player where teams are gonna have to, you know, watch him closely because he can create something out of nothing. Harvey Barnes, I feel like everyone kind of knows that he's a sharpshooter. So as long as you can try to get him to force him to create something rather than a shooting opportunity, I feel like it's gonna be more dangerous. I feel like they're gonna drop off just because of this new change. I feel like with the new teams, this is just gonna really affect them in the long run, because a lot of these teams are, you know, building teams, and they've also solidified, and they're just really gonna fall off. Not as much. They did finish fourth eventually, but I feel like the fourth is just not gonna be where they're gonna be at, especially with Champions League next season. They do not have the squad depth to be playing in the Champions League. So I feel like fifth, maybe fifth to sixth is probably where they're gonna finish around. So in fourth, I'm risking a lot, honestly, putting this team, because after before I made my predictions and then I looked up the transfers. Looking at their transfers and who they sold, I have Liverpool in fourth. I have Liverpool in fourth because I'm really hoping that they get in 2 defensive midfielders before the window ends, and I'm really banking on that really affecting the team, because I like Jurgen Klopp as a coach. I like Liverpool as a team. In terms of who they have, honestly, according to history, I shouldn't like them. Honestly, fuck them. I hope that they get relegated, but I honestly do like watching their players play, and the way that they play is just so beautiful, looking from a non-biased point of view. And they've lost Henderson, which was the captain of the squad. They've lost Fabinho, who, yes, he was pretty dog shit last season, but, you know, you could hope that he could have rebounded and played a lot better. And they've also lost Firmino, which is striker depth. So, looking at who they brought in Szoboszlai and McAllister, and that's it. Yes, they're trying to negotiate Romeo Lavia, but they need more than that. What if Lavia gets injured? who are they gonna have to play at central defensive midfield? Yes, they had that Bajetic, who was a really good prospect and might do good in the future. You can't rely on him for a whole Premier League season. You have to do better than that, and especially you're playing Europa League. You're gonna play way more games in the Europa League than you do in the Champions League. This is risky for them to start the season without a defensive midfielder. They need to just get that Lavia deal out of the line, over the line. Otherwise, they're gonna struggle. And honestly, I do regret putting them in fourth, but I'm gonna stand by what I said and what I wrote. I'm gonna hope that fourth is what they get. But in third, I have the team that I support. Might be a shocker to you guys not having them in second or first, but let's be realistic here. I'm looking at it from a point of view of someone that kind of just, and even then, like, people might think I'm biased putting them in third. They might fall off. Everyone hates on Ten Hag and the players that he signed. I get Anthony overpaid for him, but let's just talk about why they might finish third. They brought in Mason Mount, they brought in Onana, they might sign Amrabat as a center mid option. Looking like Van de Beek is leaving, looking like Fred is going to leave this season. And they've also brought in Rasmus Højlund, I think that's how you pronounce his name. A relatively unknown player. Everyone's flaming his goal tally. He's 20 years old, guys. He's 20 years old. Man United overpaid the fuck for him. I think they were just scared of PSG trying to sign him. They paid 75 million, I believe, or 85 million for a 23-year-old with only like 9 goals in the league last season in Serie A. It could be dangerous, but I feel like Ten Hag kind of knows what he's doing. Once he picks out a player that he wants, I feel like he kind of just has an idea for what he's going to do. What I'm scared of is Casemiro falling off. That's what fears I have the most, because for when it looks like in preseason he's lost a step. Same thing when we signed Matic. We signed Matic when he was kind of old. He did really good in his first season. Second season, his legs fucking got chopped off. Bro had negative pace, and I feel like the same thing is gonna happen to Casemiro. So yes, signing Amrabat might be good for rotation options, but I feel like they have Eriksen, who's also really old. Casemiro's old, so they're gonna have to change a lot in the next coming seasons. And I feel like it's just a season too soon for them to be talking about a title charge, or even trying to win the title. I feel like they should just focus trying to get decently far in the Champions League, trying to secure top 4 early, and not having to struggle like last season towards the end. Because I feel like a lot of our players got burnt out. That's why we couldn't compete in the Europa League anymore. Having to play your best 11 all the time because you decided to lose, a bunch of shitty games in shitty ways, especially thanks to De Gea. He saved us a lot, but he did cost us a lot of games. And I feel like I'm ranting a lot, but this is a team I love and support. And I feel like third is probably the best we can hope for. And honestly, I feel like that's where we're gonna finish based on the signings that we made. They're not really like over the top signings, but I feel like Onana's gonna make a positive difference. And I feel like we're gonna get top 3, and I feel like it's gonna be by quite some distance. I feel like the top 3 and everyone else is probably gonna be a decent gap. Honestly, I feel like it's not going to be as close as people think in terms of the top 3 spots. I feel like that 4th spot's up for grabs. A lot of teams are going to be battling for that one, and it might be a tight point tally. But I feel like third is where Man United is going to finish. Okay, so this is the moment people have been waiting for. I despise Arsenal online, but honestly, I feel like they're going to finish second. I feel like they're going to finish above Man United again. Which honestly I don't really like to say, but I really like Martinelli. I really like Saka, and I feel like with that, well, today they announced that Gabriel Jesus is injured, so it looks like Havertz might have to play, or Nketiah, or Balogun. But they have so much depth up top. They might not have it on the wings, but up top they have a lot of depth and a lot of options that they can use, especially if Jesus gets injured. Last season he did get injured for a decent amount of time. And everyone knows that they've, spent the most on a midfielder. I think that's the most they've spent, like, personally, Arsenal, on a player. Declan Rice, I feel like he's just gonna add a lot of solidarity to that midfield. Sorry, I can't fucking talk. But I feel like second is probably where they're gonna finish. I feel like there's not gonna be much of a surprise this season. A lot of teams are gonna start parking the bus against them. Back then, last season, no one knew what this Arsenal team was gonna be. And they took off like a rocket. They almost I want to say they almost won the title. They did get in a title race. They kind of fell off towards the end, but it was clear to see that they had the fundamentals there and the foundations to make a title charge. If they added a big, couple significant pieces, they might be there. And adding Declan Rice is definitely a huge one. They might get David Raya over the line, who's a really good ball playing keeper. So I feel like second, they might get it by a decent distance compared to Man United. So I feel like second's where Arsenal's gonna finish. And so for first, I have Man City. All right, all right, guys. Thanks for watching. Those are my predictions. Let me know what you thought. I really kept the Man City one short. Everyone knows why they're gonna finish first. Literally nothing else to say. Haaland, that's it. All right. Let me know what you guys think, what you would change, why you would change it, and stuff like that. And put your predictions down in the comments. But anyways, thanks for watching. Peace out.